Okay, we're on the record.
Council agenda, Township of Parsippany Troy Hills, Township Council agenda meeting of March 5th, 2019.
Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided in accordance with the requirements of the Open Public Meetings Law by filing the notice in the office of the Township Clerk and by posting the meeting notice on the bulletin board at the Municipal Building on December 19th, 2018, where it has remained posted since that date. A legal notice appeared in the Daily Record and the Newark Star Ledger on December 27th, 2018, and was forwarded by fax to other local newspapers and local radio stations on December 19th, 2018. Council meetings are videotaped and aired on Cablevision Public Access Channel 21 at 11 a.m. on Sundays and are also available for viewing at www.parsippany.net.
Please rise for flag salute. Mrs. Grignani, if you would.
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Mr. DePiero?
Here.
Ms. Grignani?
Present.
Ms. McCarthy?
Here.
Ms. Peterson?
Here.
Mr. Carriffy?
Here.
Also in attendance are Mayor Soriano, Business Administrator Keith Kazmark, Township Attorney Jim Lott, CFO Ann Cucci, Township Clerk Colette Madden. Council President, we have a quorum. You may begin.
Thank you. Upcoming meetings, March 19th, 2019 at 7 p.m., regular meeting, and April 2nd, 2019 at 7 p.m., agenda meeting. Approval of minutes. Agenda meeting February 5th, 2019. Regular meeting February 19th, 2019. A reorganization meeting January 3rd, 2019. Presentation reports. Mayor?
First of all, happy Mardi Gras and Fat Tuesday to all the Catholics or Christians taking on the Lenten season tomorrow. I'm going to make my life difficult in the township for the next 40 days and just let everyone know I'm giving up bread. So if you see me with a piece of bread, you have my permission to smack my hand and knock it right out, okay? What I really would like to talk about is my thanks and my praise, again, for the Department of Public Works, Sanitation Division, as well as the Water Department, the Sewer Department, and the Parks and Forestry Department for digging us out on the storm Monday morning. I will have you know that I received reports from several people. I did not get to watch News 12 New Jersey Monday morning, that we were singled out as a town that did a very good job with snow removal. I want to thank our blue-collar workers for making it possible to keep Parsippany moving Monday morning. So thank you very much. Other than that, that's thank you.
That's worth an applause. You're right.
Okay, yeah, there you go. Most of you know I come from a blue-collar background. It wasn't too long ago I was working with tools and jeans, and I certainly respect what it takes for people who have to wake up early in the morning when everyone else is sleeping and picking up tools or getting behind a truck and getting things done. So I tip my hat off to them, so thank you very much. Mr. Council President, that concludes my report. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Township Council proposed budget cuts.
So, when we start this process, I just ask that we speak clearly and slowly so I can make the notes for the minutes.
I'd like to start off with, the mayor's budget came in at 4.72%. We had two budget meetings. One was this past Saturday and one was the previous Tuesday. And we went over every department. At this time, I would like to make a motion. We currently have 13 positions in the township that are spread out through different departments that are not filled at this time. They come to a salary of well over $500,000. Again, these positions, we're not talking about laying anyone off. These are just positions that have not been filled. They're vacant right now within the town. We need to bring this percentage down. you know, especially with the governor just came in with more proposed tax increases, which are going to affect everyone in New Jersey, including people in Parsippany. So I am making a motion because with the salaries and the benefits of these 13 positions that are vacant right now, we could save the town somewhat of a number of about $862,000 off the budget, which with calculations would bring the percentage of the tax increase alone under 3% with that number alone. So I'm making a motion to just freeze those positions right now, that they not be hired, and then come next year, we revisit those positions. But I just think that, you know, as of right now, things are tight, and this is something that we need to do. Also, after that motion, I'll,
I second the motion.
okay.
Okay, so yeah, let's do one by one. So
Yep.
motion made by Mr. Carriffy, seconded by Mr. DePiero, and we're going to do roll call now. Mr. DePiero,
Yes.
Ms. Grignani,
Yes.
Ms. McCarthy.
I don't disagree that we should maybe look at some of these positions and freeze them, but there are some positions that I think should remain. Like, for instance, the DPW and the housing. I mean, if there be any consideration to, you know, look at these positions. I honestly don't think we've had enough time, because we did this all last week, just about, that we really have had time to examine this. And I don't, but I think there's positions here that may be more necessary this year than others. So I don't know if we can consider any exceptions.
At this point right now, because there's the motion on the table, if you are looking to consider exceptions, we need to withdraw the motion and then discuss. Otherwise, we're going to need a vote. Council President, are you looking to withdraw your motion at this point?
No.
Okay, so we need a vote. Ms. McCarthy, yes or no?
Well, let me just make, since we're doing comments anyway,
Sure.
I don't disagree with you. At some point in the future, March, April, May, June, if some of these come back as an absolute general necessity and the administration wants us to reconsider, we can do that. For right now, I support cutting them all.
So, for the record, Mr. DePiero has indicated to address Ms. McCarthy's concerns with regards to the two specific positions pertaining to housing and DPW, that down the road, maybe there might be a possibility of allowing them to be brought back and taken out of the freeze. So based on that, Ms. McCarthy, how would you vote?
You know, then I'm going to vote no.
Okay. And Ms. Peterson?
So, the statement you made was that we need to bring this percentage down. This percentage is so high because we are living the legacy of a 0% increase years back. And I don't want to frame it as bringing it down. This is the cost of having a 0 several years ago. And I thought the presentation made by the business administrator was unequivocal with straightforward arithmetic that the issue at hand is not the current percentage, but the previous percentage. And no one should confuse the points that this 4.72 percentage is a luxurious budget by any stretch. And I do not believe that continuing to withhold jobs and to continue to withhold that kind of funding from a business administrator and a mayor whose opinion I respect is the right move. So, no.
Okay. So now we're going to do this one more time. Just yes or no for the record so we can be clear.
No.
So motion made by Council President Carriffy, seconded by Mr. DePiero. Roll call, Mr. DePiero.
Through you, Mr.
Wait,
Council President. if
We're
I'm-
still in the middle of the vote, though.
Okay, but can I just get clarification on the motion? Because there were,
Okay.
respectfully, I don't think it was abundantly clear. just to clarify that the motion on the table is to direct myself and the chief financial officer to reduce the budget by the amount of $682,931, which reflects the 2019 budgeted salaries for the 13 aforesaid positions, in addition to fringe benefits. Because then subsequently, it was said that we would put a hiring freeze in place. So I just want to put on the record, there's a distinguishing factor between cutting the 862,931 out of the budget and having a hiring freeze where we left that dollar amount in place but simply did not hire people for the position. So if we could just get
Thank you for
clarification. on that, I would
Motion is
appreciate it.
no, we're going to freeze it, but we're going to remove that out of the budget so that it brings the tax increase down.
That's what I thought. I just wanted to make sure we're all on the same page.
So we're saying-
Thank you,
We're
Mr.
saying
Kazmar.
hiring freeze.
So,
But we're cutting that money out of the budget to bring it down.
so
Which means
the,
that in April and May,
Yeah,
we
but
can't
wait a
change
minute.
our mind.
What happens if, when we cut that money out of the budget and we don't see a hiring freeze? What if the administration decides to cut it from someplace else? Are we directing this,
so what you're doing, and correct me
either,
if,
either we're directing this to be a hiring freeze, or we're telling the administration, cut the budget? Which, I thought we were
Well, the
approving a hiring
administration gave
freeze.
us that budget, so they're not cutting
there,
it.
well, and I think what's happening here, and correct me if I'm wrong, you guys are making a motion to do a hiring freeze for these 13 positions, but by doing the hiring freeze, you're also directing the BA and the CFO to remove that amount, including fringe benefits, from the budget, thereby bringing down the percentage. Is that correct?
Correct.
Correct.
Okay, but I just want to be clear that once the 862,931 is removed from the budget, the hiring freeze really won't be in place because the positions will no longer exist.
So we
within the
cannot
table of
bring these
organization
positions
of the
back.
township.
That's
So,
correct.
so the positions cannot be brought back later on in a later point in time, Mr. Kazmar, correct?
That's correct.
So to clarify again, the motion is
Wait a
being
minute.
made. Go ahead.
A hiring freeze does not mean, that means don't hire now. A freeze means do not hire now.
Mhm.
That does not mean never hire.
So let's ask this question of,
So I'll ask the township attorney.
So
a
there's a
hiring freeze
distinction, so there's an important distinction here, right? You know, the budget appropriates money against identified positions. So if the budget is going to eliminate, that in this case, the 13 vacant positions that are funded,
Yeah, but
those
you're using
positions no longer
but you're using the word
exist.
eliminate. We didn't use the word eliminate. We said freeze them, freeze the hiring for now.
In which
I
case, the
think-
money stays in
I think
place and the
he's
we
saying
just
percentage
the
need-
money
doesn't.
has
okay.
to stay in place in
So-
case future use, so there would be no cut to the budget.
Correct.
It's appropriated.
So the only way to reduce, all right, is to eliminate the funded position from the budget.
so what happens if they want to bring back another position? I think that's the question that everybody's asking.
Then you
So-
have to leave that money in the budget.
Correct.
and there's no
So
other way
money-
that
in
you
order
can-
to reduce the budget, the money has to be removed. So
Correct.
my motion was to remove it, and then come next year, if we deem, revenues are better, the economy's better, the budget isn't as high, then we can look to add those positions back in, depending on where we're at.
Fantastic. So the motion stands. We've gotten clarification by Mr. Kazmark with regards to the motion. There's a motion that's been made to freeze these 13 positions, but in a sense, we're going to be removing the positions, including fringe benefits totaling an amount of $862,931. Based on that motion made by Mr. Carriffy, seconded by Mr. DePiero, we're going to do a roll call at this point.
Hold on,
But-
wait, hold on. Does that, what you just described, bring the percentage down?
Correct, it does.
And I want to be clear
The
about-
positions are being removed, so we're very clear. Positions are being removed. The money is not going to be there, and we will not be bringing these positions back until next year when we reevaluate the budget. So we all have to be clear on the record. Are we all clear?
Yes.
Correct?
Eliminating jobs.
Jobs that are
Okay.
not filled right now, we're not laying anyone off whatsoever.
Clerk,
Mayor?
for the record, I would like the 13 positions read.
I don't have the 13 positions on me, but if we have them
We're
on
in the
me-
middle of a motion.
Yeah, we have to do the
Let's finish
motion.
this up.
Yes, let's do the motion first. We are in the middle of a motion. So, I've already said the motion numerous times. I'm not going to say it again. So, we've made it by Council President Carriffy, seconded by Mr. DePiero. Roll call, Mr. DePiero,
Yes.
Ms. Grignani,
Yes.
Ms. McCarthy,
No.
Ms. Peterson,
No.
Mr. Carriffy,
Yes.
The motion passes.
Okay. Secondly, I had an opportunity to speak to some of the people here, and I'm actually truly sorry that you had to come out tonight. I'm sure you guys had other things to do, but apparently there's a rumor out there that we were going to cut the new turf field, the replacement of the turf field. I can tell you that that is not true. At one of our budget meetings, one of the council members had asked Mr. Walsh if we could get another year out of the current turf field, and he explained the condition of the field. At no point at all was that field ever removed from the budget. We're doing budget things now. As far as I'm concerned, it is not going to be removed from the budget. So I know that there are some people that I've spoken to that are here. I don't know where you got that information from, but it's not true. So I just wanted to state that for the record.
Council President,
Go ahead, Mr. DePiero.
I make a motion that we remove from the budget under capital items North Bevick Road Streetscape Phase 1. The capital amount is $1,100,000, but the 5% down payment comes to $55,000. I make a motion we remove that item.
Second.
So we have a motion made to remove the capital item as it pertains to North Beverick Road. The motion, the amount is 1.1 million, but the down payment is 55,000, and the motion is made to remove that amount. The motion was made by Mr. DePiero, seconded by Ms. Grignani. We're going to do a roll call at this
Well,
point.
let's do some discussion first.
Sure.
I'm not opposed to beautifying North Bevick Road, but before we go bonding for $1,100,000, I think we need to have some planning, some discussion, some dialogue from planners, from the administration, from the council, and from the public, and from the businesses in Lake Hiawatha, before we go budgeting $1.1 million in capital improvements. So I'm not opposed to this, but we need a lot of work before we actually want to put money in the budget. I
And-
support the effort in the future.
Any other comments before I do a roll call?
Well,
Would the,
oh, go
sorry,
ahead.
no,
I'm
please,
sorry.
Jen.
No, please.
Would the, either the down payment of $55,000 or the bonded for amount pay for those consultants and planning that you are suggesting?
We don't necessarily have to have paid consultants to begin with. We have a township planner, we have administration, we have council members, we have the public, and we have businesses in Lake Hiawatha. We can start there.
So, in your proposal, the body sitting here, and just by show of hands, no sound, raise your hand.
No,
if
we
you're-
cannot do that. We cannot do that.
Sorry,
No, no.
everybody. Still learning the rules. The body sitting here and the businesses on North Beverwick are equipped to devise a workable plan for upgrading a major street.
It's kind of like the mayor is doing with the master plan, okay? Seeking input, getting ideas before you have an actual plan.
May I?
Yeah.
This is what we need to do, I think, for North Bevick Road.
Councilman DePiero,
Yes.
the master plan is the North Beverwick Road improvement. That is
Yeah.
all part of it, and
It's-
part of the
it's a
bonding,
piece of
part
it,
of the
yes.
bonding will pay. The bonding for Beverwick Road will pay for the master plan, because a big focus and a big feature of that is North Beverwick Road.
Well, I need to see some ideas and some plans, because one thing I heard I disagree with is
Where
widening the sidewalks so more businesses can put tables and umbrellas outside.
Well, we're waiting to have the master plan completed, where that will be an assessment. And to get the master plan completed, we need this bond so we can help pay for it and finish it off.
Widening the sidewalk on a very heavily
No one said
traveled road.
anything about widening the sidewalk as a final idea, okay? These are all things that are being thrown around, and right now, when the master plan is completed, we'll know where that goes. And by the way, since you sit on the planning board, you have major input into that.
And I'm willing and able to do that.
But now, we don't have money to pay for
We
it.
don't have the funds, we don't need the funds now, we need discussion now.
Any other discussion with regards to this before I go into roll?
I would just like to say that the master plan is currently being revised right now, so nothing would be done at the earliest until next year anyway.
So now the professional people that we have working on the master plan, you are going to cut off their funding.
So that $1.1 million is strictly for the master plan?
No. The initial cost that we need to spend now is part of the master plan. The other costs that are coming later, that's for the street improvements and the sidewalk improvements.
From a, maybe this is a question for the business administrator and the CFO. From a points reduction perspective, does the amount, is the amount reduced $55,000 or the full amount of the bond?
$55,000. It's
down
only
payment.
it's only the 5% payment, which needs to be budgeted in the operating budget in order to pay for the down payment on the bond.
And Ms. Cucci, what is the percentage point of $55,000?
Just doing the math.
It goes from 2.77% to 2.64. So it's only, what, 0.13%. It's $3, I believe.
Any other discussion?
Yes, I'd
Yeah,
like-
it's less than $3 a year.
Ms. Grignani?
yes. I was a former businesswoman in Lake Hiawatha. And many years ago, former Mayor Letts approached the business renters and owners on North Bevwick Road with low-interest loans to place awnings and to rehabilitate their buildings. I was fortunate that I had a rental facility that the owner of the building had his medical practice in. So whatever needed to be done to my building that I rented, he was willing to do. I don't remember how many other businesses in Lake Hiawatha took advantage of Mayor Letts's proposal. I'm not opposed to upgrading North Bevwick Road. I think it is in dire need. I don't know how many of the business owners, and we do have many business owners that are absentee owners in those buildings. I don't know how many of them would be willing to upgrade their facilities. I think more studies have to be made, and even speak to the business owners themselves as to would they cooperate and upgrade their buildings.
That study will be part of the master plan.
Any other discussion?
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to know more about the project myself. When we say we were going to do, are we going to just use this money this year for the planning of it?
Mhm.
And do we have a whole design for it at this point?
So that starts with putting the bond in place to start paying for the professionals. To Councilman DePero's point, any type of public input, solicitation of feedback from the public, from governing body, from the planning board, that starts with the award of a contract, which takes you right from design to bid to award of contract to construction.
And do we,
So to have a planner and to do some studies, okay, you don't need $1.1 million this year.
well, could you speak to that, Keith, a little bit more?
Well, I mean, that's true if we were only to do the design piece, but again, that piece would need to be budgeted for in order for us to execute just the initial aspect of the project. Traditionally, when we do road resurfacing projects, when we do other capital projects, the bond is put in place and it starts with design and it ends with completed construction. We could look at it from a different perspective, but we would need the council to allow us some funding in order to do the preliminary design and feedback portion of the project.
Okay, do you anticipate, if we left this in there, do you anticipate spending $1.1 million this year?
Well, we wouldn't be, even if this was approved as presented by the administration, we would not be spending $1.1 million in
you.
calendar year 2019. We
And
would,
that's my point.
we would be
So-
putting the $55,000 down payment down. We would present a bond ordinance to the council for introduction and adoption, and then we would begin by spending those dollars, and then as we awarded a contract for construction, then there would be a bond put in place where the debt service would be paid back over a series of years.
Okay, so,
Mr.
oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry, Mr.
go ahead.
Kazmark,
Yes.
are there any grants that the township can apply for?
So we are pursuing, through Millennium Strategies, some grant opportunities through the New Jersey Department of Transportation. As was explained at the budget meeting on Saturday, if we are successful in getting any of those grants, which there's never a guarantee, then we would be able to utilize them towards paying back the debt service. So that's how we would structure any type of grant award to pay down the debt that was incurred on the project, if it
Yeah.
were to be bonded.
I had asked, I think earlier today, about any of the community block grants, if they're still available.
Yes, and the Community Block Grant Program is awarded directly to the township, so I have Justin Lizza looking at whether North Beverwick would be an area that would be designated to
has-
receive those
It
dollars.
has qualified in the past.
Right. That, it does change,
So we could use
Every
some
2
of that
years, but-
funding as well then?
it's possible.
And if we didn't approve this, then we couldn't begin the project at all?
Oh, they can still request to see community development block grants and use that money to do the study.
What is the increment of a community block grant financially? How much money are we talking?
Oh, it varies.
The pavers and the curbing and little trees that we have along North Bevick Road, that was all done with CBDG dollars.
That's from HUD?
Yes.
Yeah, any more discussion on the matter?
I would ask, if this were to go through this year, would there be any chance of, if it were approved by the council, would there be any chance of any of this development and reconstruction and work performed this year when the master plan's not even done yet?
No, I don't think so, right? No, right.
Okay, so my
I-
question would be, and maybe to alter the proposal, would be, whatever monies is needed for, that is being, out of the, obviously 1.1, it's been stated, 1.1 million is not for the master plan. To reduce that drastically, to just be for the amount of money that's needed for the study, to continue that, which has to be drastically less. Because that work's not gonna be done this year, even if it were to be approved. I mean, there's still, the master plan's not done. There still would have to be a lot of planning, a lot of decisions, a lot of, work that would need to be done.
And we may not need that amount of money, $1.1 million, to do upgrades up there anyway.
I think the estimate, though, on the project was about, was it 2.4 million?
Yeah, and it was going to be done.
Yeah.
It was going to be done in two separate work efforts.
So I think,
I think to the council president's point, if the council was willing to allocate $15,000, and I'm making up a number as I'm sitting up here, but based on past experience, I think that's a reasonable number for us to be able to solicit feedback and start design, at least preliminarily. I think that might be an ample compromise.
that's all?
I'll go with, I'll even go with 100,000.
Well, no, we're cutting, it reduces the budget 55,000.
I
so we
want,
need
I
it-
want, I want the
the
budget
thing-
number. I'll hold off on the
So-
bond if
so-
you give me some money to
So,
do
Mr.
design.
Based on what you said, Mr. Kazmark, and what we just talked about, it appears that you may want to amend the motion to strike from 55,000 to reduce it down to cutting 40,000, thereby leaving 15,000 there for the study.
15,000 down payment.
Design out of the budget.
Down
And-
payment. Okay.
Excuse me.
Go ahead, Ms. Cucci.
Yes, thank you. When you do a preliminary design in general, you fund that in full. We don't normally bond that. So like what we did with the library, the $15,000 for their feasibility study, we funded that in full.
So let me just say this. What I think Ann is saying is if you wanted to cut the budget by $40,000, kept the $15,000 in, we would not leave it in the capital line item. Excuse me, Mike. 410, but we would move it over to planning, and then we'd be able to use that to award a design contract to a firm that could start the preliminary design for North Beverwick.
Okay,
But before you do a design contract, this is where I'm getting hung up, okay? Shouldn't we have discussions about what we're going to design?
Yes, we're doing that now, Michael.
But you've had no input from anybody.
We started the master plan last November.
I'm talking about North Beverwick Road, strictly North Beverwick Road.
Just on North, well, we've started part of that, and that's, before the master plan's completed, North Beverwick Road is a huge feature of it. Huge feature of it.
so, it appears that discussions are over on this.
That area has been ignored for a long, long time. And I cannot see the wisdom in ignoring it for another year. Sounds like, hey, Paul can relate to me on this one. This sounds like the guy that says, you know what, I'll start going to the gym tomorrow. And then the next day he says, you know what, I'll start going to the gym tomorrow. We can't keep putting this off. It's out of shape. We got to get it fit. And this is going to be, once we get that Beverwick Road area the way that we all know it can be, it's going to help property values in that area. Revenues are going to start coming in that area. And yes, even the absentee landlords, they're going to find nice offers being made on their properties as nicer places want to come in there. Good businesses, responsible businesses that want to be part of the community and have a good service, a good amenity that's going to provide not only revenue for Parsippany, but also just nice places for us to walk and spend time with our families.
Let me ask this.
Sure.
So, if we were to eliminate, Mr. Kazmark, Mr. DePiero, if we were to eliminate the 1.1 million for the bond, which saves the town $55,000, and then put the $15,000 in for the study, the town is still saving $40,000. Okay. You had said, Mrs. Cucci, that the budget from what we previously did by reducing those 13 people, we're down to, what is it, 2.77? 2.77. Prior to the 1.1. Okay,
Yes.
so 2.77. If we reduce the budget by that $40,000, what does it drop it down to?
Do you want to take out just a straight 40? Okay.
No, we're saying
No, the
we're
1.1.
saving 40 because
I got
Mr. Kazmark's looking for the 15,000 for the study.
From 3.72 down?
You get to 2.68.
From
2.68. So we
No,
started
from
the night at
4.7.
4.72. We could be at
2.7 to
2.6.
2.68.
2.68.
Okay, so, based
But
on.
I have to ask Mr. DePiero if he wants to.
Yeah, I'm going to ask him right now.
change this. Okay.
Mr. DePiero, do you want to amend the motion?
Yes, I
Okay.
amend the motion.
So what we'll do is, based on the discussion, the motion will be amended. At this point in time, the motion is to eliminate the $1.1 million and keep in $40,000.
No,
No,
15,000.
sorry, I apologize. A lot of discussion going on here. Go ahead, Mr. Kazmark.
No, go.
Okay. So the motion is motion is to eliminate the $1.1 million and keep in $15,000 for the studies to be made on North Beverwick Road. Is that clear enough, or do we need to add anything to that motion?
It's a net budget reduction of 40,000.
Thank you, Mr. Kazmark. So based on that, we have a motion by Mr. DePiero, seconded by Ms. Grignani. We're going to do a roll. We just need a yes or no for the roll call, please. Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Mr. Mayor, are we still going to ask our business owners and absentee owners any of their input?
Yes.
Thank you. I vote yes.
Ms. McCarthy?
Yes.
Ms. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Carriffy?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right. We have no further cuts.
Before we move on, I would like those 13 positions that are being frozen read into the record.
Sure.
The department and the position.
Do you have it, Clint?
You can have the business administrator read it.
Yeah, I can read it.
Okay, the 13 positions are full-time EMT for paid ambulance,
And what would the salaries be, please?
Can I give you the total
Sure.
position cost, which will be the salaries and the fringe benefits combined?
Okay, thank you.
So EMT part-time, $16,680. EMT full-time, again with the paid ambulance squad, $68,958. Parks and Forestry, laborer 1, $61,980. Mechanic at the DPW, $73,476. DPW laborer 1, $61,980. Sanitation laborer 1, $61,980. Senior building maintenance worker, $99,588. That's with building maintenance. Parks and Forestry, tree maintenance worker 2, $88,615. Parks and Forestry, tree maintenance worker 2, $68,045. Per diem nurse in the health department, $58,190. Field representative field representative for the housing department, $74,969. Police officer in the police department, $64,240. And a second police officer in the police department, also $64,240. I want to again stress that number that I read off is the starting salaries for each of these positions, in addition to their health benefits, pension costs, Social Security costs, etc.
Thank you. Okay, I just want to reiterate that those positions right now, there will be no cut in services because those positions are currently not filled. So all of the services you are receiving in town now, our workers are currently providing you with. So there is no cut in services, which I attribute to the workers that we have for our town, which I feel are top of the line, no doubt in my mind. But I just want to stress that those positions have not been filled. They've been vacant all year. Your services that you've been receiving, there will be no change in those services because those positions have not been filled up to this point.
However, at the sanitation department, where they have a high turnover rate, that can be a problem. And having a hiring freeze, will I be able to replace that worker once they've left?
Oh, of course.
Okay.
Yeah, those if somebody leaves, if somebody retires or somebody resigns, those positions, these are just additional positions that are not filled.
That's what that one sanitation position is. That's someone who left that we need to fill. And right now we're getting along, but summer comes, people start going on vacation, there's less manpower around. One less person, overtime can increase on this, and I have the same concerns when it comes to the police department. I'm very concerned at what we're potentially doing to ourselves, so we can save $4 or $5 a month on our taxes. If we cut too deep, the impact, it could be a serious one. I mean, we're doing a very good job here in Parsippany. I'm lucky enough to stand on the shoulders of others who have done great and to build upon that. But I want to keep going with this. If we start cutting things, I'm concerned about our future. And right now, Councilwoman Peterson alluded to the 0% tax increase, which I'm not going to question the wisdom of those who voted for it or the wisdom of those who proposed it to begin with. What I am going to tell you is what the repercussions are for that. The check is due. It's time to pay it. That's the budget I proposed. A fiscally responsible one. One that may be tough for some to swallow, but we can get through this. We've been rating our sewer utilities, our water utilities, for money to help balance the budget over the years. This is not a good, sound fiscal policy. I am concerned for our future if we keep doing this type of thing. This budget that I'm presenting is not just a one-year budget. This is right now a 6-year budget is what I'm looking for. What I want to be able to do over the years is to be able to increase our bond rating and be able to lower our taxes once they stabilize. But doing this right now, cutting us too tight, this could be very dangerous. Oh, okay, so seven of these positions are replacement? Okay. So,
Well, it was explained to us that those 13 were vacant.
they're vacant, yes,
Right, but
but
that
we
they were
haven't
not
been able to
filled.
replace them with anyone, and we need to. I don't think you should reconsider doing all 13 blanket. It just sounds real easy and neat when you just say, fine, cut those 13 positions for now. But we need to look at each one individually and what it can do.
Well, that's what I had suggested, that we'd step back and take a look at
That's
the
right, you did.
need, but, I just have one more question, and I just wanted to ask about, and probably this is for you, the Green Acres.
Yes.
How is that determined, how you use those funds?
It is actually a law. The Green Acres came in, depending on how you purchase, we purchased quite a bit of property on Green Acres, and they came in and audited, and all the funds that are come in or revenue from that property, such as rentals and things like that, all needs to go into a special trust, and then any expenditures that are related to those parks or Green Acre properties must be spent, can be spent out of that reserve. So it just shifted the money from general revenues and general expenses into a trust. So it's a net wash to the township.
Okay, so how you use those funds, is there some priority or some list on
Yes.
how those funds are utilized?
Yes, it has to be on any kind of expenditure or capital that has to do with those parks. So it could be Parks and Forestry people, which I did
Right,
put it in
right,
there, and
right.
also recreation personnel.
I was just wondering if there was some other priorities, something to do with the
This-
cleanup or mitigation of some of the...
No, it's basic maintenance, and it could be for capital or cleanup, but it has to be on a property that was purchased by Green Acres funds.
Well, one of the things that we could do with that is, if the playground equipment in some of the parks require replacement, in those Green Acres parks, we could use the funds for replacement.
We can, but that would mean that I have to reduce the amount of money I'm offsetting in the Parks and Forestry right now. So, for example, if we're getting $300,000 in revenue, I've offset that in maintenance by $300,000. I would have to change that number to like 250, and
All
we
I'm
would.
saying is the money could be used for that.
Yes,
Okay.
it can be used for capital as well.
So in the interest of time, if they're, okay, go ahead, Mayor.
One other last point, and then back to you, Clerk. Thank you.
Oh, absolutely.
There are 3 positions listed here for the Parks and Forestry Department. 2 are for tree maintenance, and one of them is for a laborer. Jim Walsh, the Director of Parks and Forestry, held off on filling those positions until the spring for when those positions are really needed. Right now, he thought it was good fiscal policy to not hire anyone. But come April, we're going to need people. We are called a tree city for a reason. My goodness, it's one of our symbols for the township of Parsippany. And these trees require a lot of maintenance. And what I'm concerned about, again, is if we do not fill those 3 positions or have the ability to do it, what the town could potentially look like, and again, overtime, which costs more than just having someone do it on straight time. So here it is, you went to save money, and now we're going to wind up spending more money. Back to you, Clerk.
Can I ask one
Thank
fast
you, Mayor.
question?
You sure can.
And I think this is from Mr. Lott. Does the words hiring freeze impact seasonal employment at all?
It depends on whether or not the seasonal employment is as an appropriated position in the budget.
That was brought up at our budget meeting, and it was not to include the seasonal. So the seasonal people
I-
can still be hired.
So you, through you, Council President, and I'm glad that Councilman Peterson brought this up, because, listen, these cuts that are being proposed in this budget process, once the budget is handed over to the council, is our policy decisions, and that's what the governing body and the mayor are here to do. From mine and Ms. Cucci's standpoint, we're here to execute the direction of the governing body. So I do want to just get some clarification so that I'm on sure footing tomorrow morning when we start to implement these changes as we prepare to introduce this budget 2 weeks from tonight. These 13 positions will be eliminated to the tune of $862,931. We'll reduce the $40,000 from the capital budget for the 5% down payment, move $15,000 over to planning for startup costs for North Beverwick Road. But I do want to clarify the term hiring freeze, because I got two different answers during the course of the discussion tonight. Absent these 13 positions, if someone walks in tomorrow and tenders their resignation as a laborer down at sanitation, the expectation is that the administration, because that money is still budgeted for that employee who's departing, that we can still fill that
Yes.
position. Am I correct?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay. And with regard to seasonal positions, which currently don't exist, especially
But are in the budget.
at DPW, at the Knoll, and at some of the other blue-collar locations, there's no issues with bringing on and onboarding those seasonal employees
No issues.
because they perform that function.
No
Correct.
Clear sailing. Thank you.
But 1 minute, because I want to get back
No,
to
no,
this.
whatever. I have all
I
night,
just
guys. So
wanted to
whatever
get
you guys
back
want.
to this. Yeah, well, I just wanted to get back to this open space. My point was, are there priorities for the Green Acres other than parks? Like, for instance, like, this flood plan mitigation or something like that. I mean, do we put it in some sort
It
of
needs
order?
to be related to Green Acres property.
Yeah, and I'm saying, are there higher priorities?
It could be. I mean, what we did, just because this is the first year, I just put the money and split it between the two departments of recreation and parks and forestry in their regular maintenance of in lieu and with the best interest of the budget. Okay, so I offset it. Normally, that money would have gone into general revenues and offset the regular.
I think the best way to describe this in layman's terms is that money that was in the trust was used for special projects in the past concerning Green Acres, open space, recreation, those types of things. What we decided to do was, in order to cut down the operating budgets of recreation and parks and forestry, we used an allocation of open space money to supplement their operating expenses. It was one of the cuts that we made during this process that began in October and, led to the budget presentation of 2 weeks ago.
And there's an important legal distinction here,
no.
right? There's Green Acres money, which
Yeah.
comes from the state, which is primarily
That's-
designed for the acquisition of property. And then there is the Open Space Trust Fund money.
Right, don't mix it up. We're just
Don't-
talking Green
right, don't-
Acres right now.
Don't mix those up, because
Yeah.
they are really two separate pots of money.
This happens to be just the Green Acres revenue generated from the Green
Correct.
Acres purchased property. The Knoll is a perfect example.
Right.
Any of that money that's generated from the Knoll must be spent on the Knoll. Any money that's generated at Veterans Park must be spent on one of the parks. That's all they're trying to say. So all we did was extract those monies and put it into its own place, into a reserve.
We're using trust fund reserve money, and we're moving it over to supplement the operating.
Yeah, it's a
We
wash.
cut operating, we're using trust fund. That's really what it boils down
And
to.
that's something that's, okay, with the,
Yes, this has been the preferred state practice for years.
And we just began that in
Recently.
2018.
2018,
Yeah.
correct.
I just asked Mr. Lott that question, if it was state mandated.
Yes.
Yes.
So rather than generating it through taxation in the operating budget, we've cut that, and we're utilizing the reserves to cover some of the costs that we would normally have generated through taxation.
Yeah, we're gonna. It's a wash, really.
I think it's all yours, Colette.
No, whatever you guys want. Yeah,
Good.
absolutely.
Township Attorney, Mr. Lott.
I have nothing.
Thank you. Okay, Business Administrator, Mr. Kazmark.
Thank you, Council President. Tonight we have a presentation on the trap, neuter, release program. This was something that both the mayor and Councilman DiPiero brought to my attention shortly after arriving here in Parsippany. We had kicked around the idea of having our animal control division, and we have the head of that, Heidi Mooney, with us tonight, implement that within her division. However, with the lack of a facility to house cats for up to 7 days after they are spay or neutered, in addition to only having 3 individuals assigned to the animal control division, that became a challenge. So from there, the mayor's office primarily went out and solicited some assistance from some potential nonprofit organizations to help us with the TNR program that we would like to propose. It was one of the additions to the budget that was presented 2 weeks ago. And at this time, I'd like to introduce Diane Thompson from Smitten by Kittens, who we've met with and who we believe may be able to help Parsippany in this endeavor.
Hi, guys. Council, Mayor, Keith.
Good
Thanks
evening.
for giving me the opportunity to come here and speak about a topic that's near and dear to my heart and for the citizens. Sorry for my back. I have been a participant in TNR efforts, what we have traditionally referred to as trap, neuter, return, what is now being called trap, neuter, vaccinate, and manage. But all the acronyms really mean is we're finding a way to cost effectively,
I'm gonna write
with
it down
attention
on
to
the
public health, and humanely manage feral cat populations. And so the mayor's interested in this topic. He's asked us to come in. I've worked with Heidi, and we had a third person who helped us prepare who unfortunately was deathly ill tonight, not here. But we've got information that represents Heidi's experience as an animal control officer, my 13 years invested in animal rescue, and I'm currently a director of Smitten by Kittens, which is a 501c3 organization. I've worked with a number of other volunteer groups. And Jane Guillaume, who's the executive director of People for Animals, which is the largest low-cost spay-neuter organization in the state. She helped us to prepare our materials. Unfortunately, she's ill and could not present tonight. My goal here is to educate you guys a little, to answer any questions, and if there's anything that we can't clarify tonight, I'll be sure to follow up and give you the information that you're looking for to make good decisions. Is that cool? So, and please stop me if I'm not making sense, because this is for you. So, what's the problem? It's actually a question.
Where's Colette?
You know what, just push that button on the bottom.
Try that,
Again.
yeah.
It may light, did it light up?
Is there another one?
If you guys don't mind, I can make myself heard.
No, we need that.
No, it has to
Colette,
be,
it's
it's
not working.
recorded.
What are we doing here?
Microphone.
The mic's not working.
It's working now. Sorry, guys. So, what's the problem? So, as an animal control officer, Heidi probably deals with this every day. Guys, what's the protocol? Face you, face them? This is weird.
You have to face us.
Sorry.
I struggled with that.
Sorry, guys. Yeah. You guys get the good view. Just let me know if you can't see. So, the issue is, as an animal control officer, Heidi's probably the person that faces this problem the most. And for some people, you probably don't notice. There's a lot of cats.
Did it again, Colette.
It's not me, I swear.
How about if you just use the microphone? That could help.
Of course, the clerk's thing is going to go on.
Clerk, did you neuter the microphone? Okay. Heidi, you should have brought some kittens with you. You could have passed them out to everyone. As you know, they could have oohed and awed a little bit. Would have been good. Okay, yeah, that wouldn't be the first time we've had cats in town hall.
Can I say that just for the purposes of supporting tonight's conversation, Anne helped me put together a packet, so there's some material for each of you guys. I'm going to make reference to some of this information. Believe me, there's reams of information, but if you wish to educate yourselves at all, I just gave you a little bit of...
Diane, the reason we need the microphone is not just so the people in the back can hear, but this is recorded.
No, I'm not starting. I'm just letting them know they have...
Well, as a sign of progress, and as a sign of moving forward, this has always been known as trap, neuter, release, which is what Councilman DiPiero has always known. And he said, I don't know if I'm going to learn the new term, Mayor. I like my TNR. He just now wrote down on his thing, so I can memorize it, Mayor. Trap, neuter, vaccinate, manage. TNVM. Thank you, Councilman.
I haven't memorized it yet.
Me neither, Mike.
And it's also difficult to use in a sentence or...
TNVM? TNVM. That's it. TNVM. That's it. TNVM.
TNR was easy.
Exactly.
Hello.
Okay.
All right, now start where you were.
I thank you. Okay, so again, I let you know there's some materials, but back to the cats. So, when I sat down with the mayor, Mr. Kazmark, and the way I like to start this conversation is there are cats living in a lot of places that you may occasionally see. Maybe they're in the dumpster behind the Burger King, or if you go to an apartment community, you might see them streaking across a parking lot, and your head may say, oh, they're a neighbor's cat. But there's actually a lot of cats that spend their entire lives without really interacting with humans. And it's kind of an unnoticed problem, but the fact is if they were dogs, you'd notice. We don't have a stray dog problem in the Northeast. We haven't had a stray dog problem really since consciousness came about in the early 70s. I mean, in fact, most of the animal shelters and adoption facilities here in the Northeast import dogs from down south because we don't literally have enough dogs to support the people that want to adopt them. But cats are a different problem because they live differently. They've been a member of our community. Outdoor cats have been part of the climate that we've lived in, since the Mayflower, right? But unfortunately, the population, if allowed to grow unchecked, will reach a level that most people find unappealing for a number of reasons. And using some calculations and some common models used by animal control officers and rescuers, we're talking somewhere in the neighborhood of 4,500 to 9,000 feral cats in the township of Parsippany. Now, it's a big number. It's not a problem until you think about the fact that there's probably large concentrations of these cats in certain areas where they cause complaints. There are actions taken at cost by the township to try to manage just a few members of this population. What I'm here to talk to you tonight about, trap, neuter, vaccinate, and manage, is a much more cost-effective approach. It will help you meet your objectives as they relate to public health more rapidly, and frankly, it's a more modern and humane approach. This is not only commonly accepted, but it is becoming the model. People in general are becoming more humane in how they approach their lifestyles, their eating choices, and this is the way modern communities are now managing what we call our community cats. So historically, trap, neuter, remove has been a standard, and in fact, prior to Mayor Soriano's election, it was what was done here in Parsippany. And what that meant was when Heidi's team would get a call from someone who was concerned about cats, they would go trap the animals, they would hold them for 7 days to ensure no owner showed up, and then they would kill them. It doesn't work, unfortunately, because you can't really make a dent on a breeding population of 4,500 to 9,000 animals by removing a couple hundred a year. And so to realistically reduce the population of animals that can breed at will, you need to attach 75% of the population. You need to get below the halfway mark to really reduce or create a decrease in the population over time. And you can't do this 250 cats at a time. Mathematically, you're talking 33, 35, 5,000 cats a year. It's not feasible to address it in this way with trap, neuter, kill. These are the records for the last, for 2015 through 2017, which was the last year that trap, neuter, kill was used in Parsippany. And as you can see, Heidi's team, despite their best efforts, there's only so many cats they can trap and manage in this fashion. And again, more to the point, it's not an effective way in managing the population, because if it were, you'd have fewer cats, which I promise you don't. So briefly, trap, neuter, vaccinate, manage is the modern approach to management of feral cat populations for the reasons you see here. But it depends on what your orientation is. It's fiscally much more effective for the town. Both in the medium and in the long term, there's benefits to reducing that cat population. Part of it relates to public health and the cost of maintaining the status quo, but also in the future, you'll have the opportunity to turn both your officers and your facility potentially into revenue generators for the town. You're spending less time chasing cats. You have more capacity to provide paid services to other communities. It's an accepted method. This isn't a test or a pilot. When I first was meeting with the mayor and his team, we're like, oh, maybe let's do a pilot. And my colleagues in rescue absolutely reject that concept. There's no test needed. There are cat colonies that have been documented as far back as the 70s where this mechanism has been used and proven time and time again statistically, and it's supported by many organizations, including those you see here, as the gold standard for humanely addressing cat issues. Here's how it works. It's pretty straightforward. The cats are already here. Heidi knows where a lot of them are. And when we talk to the township and the people in the town about the fact that we're going to address cats in this more conscious way, people are going to come out of the woodwork and start talking about either the cats that they're managing or cats that they're concerned about, which helps us hone our efforts. We trap the cats. We remove and adopt out any friendly individuals, cats or kittens, in places where you have a lot of transient populations, like apartment complexes. Many of the free-roaming cats are in fact friendly and can be adopted out. And Heidi can't keep her cages full because you have more adopters than cats in Parsippany. There's people who want to take these cats off the street and into their home if they're friendly. If they're not friendly, the vet checks their health, they neuter them, they vaccinate them for rabies and distemper. They are ear-tipped, as you can see in the picture, so they're easily identified by citizens and animal control professionals as a fixed cat, and they're returned. And then the key to this process, and the M in this whole equation, is the cats are then managed. There are people who feed them and care for them and monitor their health. They're not thrown to the wolves. Yes, sir.
Could you explain to me, rather than notch the ear, if you put a chip in them, what the difference in cost is and what the benefits would be?
$15.
So we used it. The microchip.
Yeah, the microchips.
The purpose of the ear tip
$7.
The purpose of the ear tip is for an easy visual identification.
Right.
So if a citizen sees a cat with an ear tip or an ACO or a volunteer, if it's got an ear tip, I know it's good to go.
It's been neutered and injected.
Exactly so. If I see a cat without an ear tip, it's open season. That's why. So it's to help us better understand the progress that we're making. It's also to help avoid retrapping cats that are already fixed.
And what would the advantage be if you had a chip in them?
I actually do microchip my ferals. Not everybody does because there is a cost.
Why?
Well, honestly, I want to know what happens to them.
Okay.
I mean, so if
you can track them.
100%. So once they're microchipped, you register the chip. It's depending on the service, it costs a small amount of money, but it's important to me if I've made the investment to try to manage the animals. So not infrequently, I'm sure, if someone sees a dead cat, Heidi gets a call, right? Heidi goes and picks up the cat. So if that animal is registered with a microchip, if you were the owner, you would get the bad news, but at least you'd know what happened, right? And for me as a colony caregiver, it gives me a lot of data. I know where my cats go. Hey, I didn't know they went that far away. And obviously, I'm not celebrating the loss of another cat, but at least I know what happened. And I know that the possibility exists the cat's not, injured or hurting, or maybe it did go to another part of town, but as a manager of a colony, I want to keep track of my cats and know what's happening to them.
Thank you. Microphone.
Cats all start looking the same after a while. The tabbies all start to look the same. The black cats all look the same. So when a cat is scanned with a microchip, it's an identifier for that cat. So now you can look at the medical record. Oh, this one's due for a rabies shot. So it's the identifier for that particular cat, and it's easier to keep up with the medical records for them.
Okay, thank you.
Back in the day, they used to put a little ear clip in the ear. That was one of the other accepted ways of marking feral cats that had been fixed. But unfortunately, if they happen to get into a little fight, you've sometimes seen a cat with a tattered ear. It was hard to tell which was which. So if any of you have neutered a cat lately, your vet, even your friendly cat, he puts a tattoo on their belly so that they don't have to do unnecessary surgeries. Again, and about cost control, if you know he's fixed and or you know his vaccination status, you're not spending money investing where you could be working on another part of the population. And again, the folks who are managing the colonies, they monitor their health, they report any individuals that are in distress, they make sure that they're fed and sheltered adequately, and then they report and or trap on their own any newcomers. So cats live in colonies, that's the name for it, herds, flocks, whatever you want to call it. Cats will come into an area. If you manage a colony and you're feeding, the cats aren't materializing out of thin air, they're just congregating in an area, and it makes it easier to manage them as your caregivers watch and see what's happening, and that's how you get ahead of new populations. So a new cat shows up, trap it right away, no babies. and here's why it works, right? The community gets involved. Look, not everybody likes cats. I get that, but a lot of people really do. And a lot of people are willing to spend time and money making sure that the animals in their property or in their care are well maintained. And they live in a lot of surprising places, but it's an effort that people, I think, get a lot of satisfaction out of. I know I do. It's a proactive approach. You're not dealing simply with managing complaints. You're actively taking part in the solution to make sure that you don't have this random population of cats. It ensures from a public health perspective that all your animals are vaccinated and overseen. And of course, long term, neutering cats and returning them is a lot cheaper than killing them. And ultimately, more beneficial if it can be done in force. It'll deal with the problem in a more permanent way than sort of skimming the troublemakers off the top. So statistically, these are some stats from some towns near us and the results of the efforts there. And I personally participated in Mount Olive and presented to the Board of Health there in 2017 on the results of our work there. There's a copy of the letter and report to the Board of Health in your packet. Englewood's an exception. I'm not exactly sure why. That's a kind of short duration. Don't get your heart set on a 2.5-year effort. Not if you've got 4,500 to 9,000 cats. But I will tell you that over a more practical 4 to 5 year time frame, we can reduce the population here by 75% or more. And the reductions are, to the best of my intention, they're permanent. What I mean by that is the small number of cats and kittens that show up, and you'll see this in the Board of Health report for Mount Olive, the intakes get reduced to virtually nothing. It really comes down to there'll be maybe a few older individuals that a colony caregiver calls and says, Heidi, time to help him over the Rainbow Bridge, right? Or you may get a report of a litter of cats or kittens. Mount Olive had not one litter of kittens in 2017. Mount Olive's big. Parsippany's big too. Mount Olive has fewer people and more farms. But when you're talking a geography that size and literally no kittens reported to the ACO, the other thing, and we're going to talk about this in a second, is what's key in each of these cities is you'll note that the grant funding is noted in Hillside. Most effective operations ideally are co-funded between the town and volunteer efforts, grant writing, donations from the community, and there's also a volunteer effort that complements the activities of the ACO. Heidi and her team are not going to solve this problem, but if the town of Parsippany is pro-positive and comes out as pro-TN... VM. Thank you, TNVM. You will find that there will be a huge volunteer effort that's going to meet you more than halfway.
I'll get it eventually.
So realistically, with the support of the town council and initial funding that's going to be necessary to create the momentum that we need, we got to get in here fast and we got to fix a lot of cats. We have to make a significant impression on the cat population this year, through the winter, next year, and through the following year, and you're going to see the numbers are just going to fall. Your curve will be like a reverse hockey stick, but we got to get on it, right? Community engagement and volunteers are key, and that means you guys have to be, if you're on board, you got to be 100% on. You got to talk about this as something you're proud of doing. This is a compassionate approach to managing community health, fiscally responsible and humane. The full-time ACO and team, the dedicated facility, that is the gold standard, and many communities don't have that. But our ability to have professional ACO collaborating with volunteers, there's a full-time permanent facility to showcase adoptable animals, professional oversight of the work of the volunteers. It's a model approach. The cat population will decline, and as I said, the numbers are going to invert. I need you to invest at the beginning, or else we're never going to get off the ground. There's too many cats. But if you make this investment initially, you'll find it's going to turn around. We talked about this in our meeting. The businesses alone. We've done some grant writing for work that I've done in another town. Corporations will hand over checks for $5,000 without batting an eye. I got New Jersey Natural Gas to give me $1,500 just to fix the cats in their parking lot. The corporations will help out. The optics are good, guys. Let's use that to our advantage. But you've got a lot of corporate entities here who could support a campaign if you made it something that the town's proud of. So recommended approach, again, be proud of what you're doing. If you adopt TNVM as a formal approach, make sure people know about it. For years, that was not the policy in Parsippany. There was a lot of underground effort. There's a lot of people that don't believe it. There's a lot of people that think a call to an ACO, somebody's going to come take their cats and kill them. You have to come out on the other side of that and be clear that you're in favor of safe, fiscally responsible, and humane management of the cat population. The initial effort's going to be concentrated, I think, in some of the larger colonies. Heidi certainly knows where the cats are. You've got some big apartment complexes, other communities of need, maybe areas where there've been complaints. We can do workshops to train groups. We can also train people one-on-one. The folks from People for Animals do these workshops all the time. We can get the public in. But believe me, you've already got dozens and dozens of people that are doing this now. They're just doing it undercover, and they're not well engaged with one another because they got to kind of be sub rosa. If they know the town is in favor, they're going to come together in a big way, and you're going to see a movement happen. Our discussion was that we can also purchase vouchers. So spay neuters can be funded. People for Animals does spay neuters. St. Hubert's is also low-cost spay neuter. We can provide vouchers so that individuals that are willing to trap that backyard cat that they've been feeding, they can go ahead and get that cat fixed, and it's a done deal, and it doesn't require an effort from the ACO, where normally that would be a complaint call that she needs to deal with. The ACO, of course, will continue to respond to calls from residents, and March 1st is the witching hour in this part of the country. It's kitten season now. So our intention is to get going soon. So final points. We're hoping that the line item in the budget will stand. I've heard your conversations here tonight. I'm well aware. I'm a taxpayer. I get it, right? Nobody wants to see taxes go up. This is a blip on the budget. I can't do the math as well as Ann can, but I do think it's like in the 2 digits to the right of the decimal point in that equation. And you could get up to 500 surgeries for that money, and that's before we start accumulating donations and efforts from volunteers. I spend out of my pocket on average $12,000 to $15,000 a year fixing cats. Call me crazy. I'm spending half your budget out of my pocket every year to fix cats, right? There are people here who will dedicate that kind of effort and time, and the people are here to do it, right? We can get the services from our partners 90% off what you pay for your vet. I almost died when I found out how much civilians pay to fix a cat. $350? All right, why? We don't pay that much. We'll pay anywhere from $25 to $55 a cat. We'll spend the money wisely. They'll be microchipped if needed. They'll get their shots. They'll be assessed. They'll be vaccinated and become a safe member of the community. The ACO is also, Heidi's writing for grants right now. In fact, I'm preparing a letter for her that I was supposed to do today. Oops, I was working on the presentation. But there are grants available. There's a lot of organizations, Petco, PetSmart, Best Friends, Alley Cat Allies, that support these efforts in communities. And once we get underway, I guarantee you, we're going to be able to approach corporate donors and get access to money. Corporations want to be seen to be supporting these kind of efforts in communities. The money is there. And again, over time, this will pay for itself. What do we need? We need a budget approval from you, but perhaps even more importantly is your proactive endorsement that this is an approach that the town wants to take, that you want to make a commitment to being a no-kill community and sort of free the citizens and the residents to do their best work and not be afraid of being out in the light of day with what they're doing with the cats. We will work together, so Smitten by Kittens, my organization, People for Animals. There are a number of other nonprofits active right here in Parsippany today, like under your noses, but under the radar. There's a number of organizations and individual volunteers that are ready and able to engage. We'll get some folks on board specifically to work on trapping, to work on volunteer coordination, to work on making sure the Facebook page is updated and we're communicating. Social media is a huge weapon in this war, and we'll get some cats fixed. That's the plan, guys. So,
Diana, could you just discuss with the council a little bit about how you described to the mayor and the councilman and I the potential reduction from the initial allotment of funding that we would presumably allocate in 2019, and how that might be reduced in subsequent budget years?
Yeah. So, realistically, most of the organizations, like my own, I'm a 501c3 organization, so we, as a charity, people are, let's just say people are happier to write me a check than to write you a check. So my organization, through a variety of grassroots fundraising efforts, was quite comfortably raising $12,000 to $15,000 a year before we did matches. And again, that's separate from the money out of my pocket. My expectation is that we will have contributions from civic organizations and businesses as well as individuals in year one that will supplement the initial investment that you're making. I believe that you will see these numbers turn around anywhere from 12 to 24 months. You will be in a position to potentially eliminate this line item altogether. I'm not a CFO or a finance person. I don't know, but I think that donations to my organization don't have to be spent in any fiscal year cycle. So as we acquire donations from interested organizations and individuals, we have the ability as a charitable organization, and I'm not just speaking on behalf of mine. My hope is that there used to be a very active Parsippany-based, Parsippany-focused TNR group, and I'm hopeful that that organization will revitalize itself. But the idea is
That's what I was going to ask you.
Yeah.
We had an organization called PASS,
they were very successful in their day.
and they were a nonprofit, the 501c. So if we can find some of those ladies that were part of that PASS.
They're still here. Yeah. Well, Suzanne's not, but that's the point. You have there. Several of the people that trap with me and for me and that foster for me are here in Parsippany. I lived in Parsippany for years up in Mount Tabor. I've recently moved to Morristown, but I spent a lot of years in this town. There's a lot of people who are interested and active. And you know, the notion is that to answer the question that you put, my realistic time frame is I think you're going to need a budget line item on this for 3 years. I'm not saying it's going to always be this amount, but you got a lot of cats to fix. But the key is that once you've passed the tipping point and we're effectively reducing the population, and once we also cross from the point where it's primarily public funded, meaning your money, to primarily private funded, meaning donors and other organizations supported, you know, you guys watch the budget, you guys do the numbers. It's an open book with a 501c3 partner. You'll know exactly where we stand from a funding
But
perspective.
what I think I hear you saying, though, is if we have a 501c nonprofit in Parsippany, like PASS, the corporations will be more willing to donate to them.
100%. Yep,
Because
100%.
it's tax deductible.
That's exactly
for them,
right. Yep, exactly right.
as opposed to donating to the town.
Yeah, and I mean, we've done it both from a matching grant perspective as well as from a individual donation perspective. I mean, look, you guys know what your ratables are, right? You know who your big companies are, right? Make it understood this is something that matters. I mean, I've always said the hardest part, I work for a very large corporation, the hardest part's just getting permission. The zeros on the check don't matter, right? With big, I'm not saying they're going to give you $1 million, but for me, it's as much of a pain to write a check for 50 grand as it is for 50. So I may as well do 50. You know what I mean? It's when we get to these organizations, if they're willing to participate, 5 companies give you 5 grand. Boom, you just zeroed out your line item, right? I think we can get there pretty easily.
How do you see the money that's being allocated for this program to be spent in the first year, just roughly? I mean, what is the best use of that money in the first year?
Surgeries. We may need, Heidi and I discussed this. There may be some additional equipment purchases just to get more traps for the town, just to be sure we have enough. If, you know, nothing's worse than having trappers and no traps. So there may be a limited investment. Good trap will cost you $50-$60, right? But for the most part, we intend to use the money for surgeries, vouchers and surgeries.
To initiate the program.
Exactly. So rough cut, for the sake of argument, 25 grand gets you about 500 surgeries.
And, you know, how does this work? Then you release the cats back to the same environment they came from?
Typically, yeah.
And then they're fed by,
Feeders who are already there.
but feeders who are assigned to go feed them?
There
or-
are people right now feeding these cats
Exactly.
someplace.
They're already there.
We call them caretakers.
Right.
And if we can get the caretakers to volunteer to be officially caretakers,
Right.
then they would be watching the community of cats, the feral cats that they feed.
So you'll know
Yeah.
that? You'll know that people are caring for, because you know, my
100%,
concern
yeah.
is they go back out and they live in
Oh,
a
no. Oh, well,
horrible-
we probably wouldn't come to the cat without a caregiver alerting us. Like, it's a strange thing, right? Not everybody likes cats, but nobody can, you know, the people that have the right wiring can't resist the little kitty cat, you know, in the dumpster behind Fox's out on Route 10, right? So stop and give them a can of food. The majority of cats find their own way to places where there is food, and the food is coming from caregivers and feeders, by and large.
How long do you keep the cat in a facility once they're operated on?
The standard varies. I personally, a male cat can be released the next day. It's an overnight. Just make sure the anesthesia's out of his system so he's not confused. And when he's returned back to his home, he's got his faculties about him. Females will keep a little bit longer. Sometimes just 2 days is adequate. It's a pretty small incision in a kitty cat. If she was gravid at the time, we'll typically keep them a little bit longer.
Yeah, because that can be an issue, right?
It's more of a surgery. Yeah, it's more of a surgery. We would, there's an ethical and a heart. I mean, you don't fix a cat that's going to give birth the next day. That's not how it works. And in those cases, you take the cat has her kittens, mommy takes care of babies 5 to 6 weeks old. You take them, you hand raise them the rest of the way. Mommy gets returned back to her colony, all is well. But the kittens get placed as pets in households because, just in case it's unclear, feral cats are feral because of how they're raised. The cat's a cat. If they're not socialized, they're not going to be friendly to people. They don't understand. But if they're raised by people, anytime after 5 weeks, which is when my preferred window is between 5 and 6 weeks. You give me a 5 or 6 week old kitten, I don't care if it was a mountain lion. It'll be eaten out of my hand by the time it's 8 weeks old, right? The feral stock is not. It doesn't mean that they're going to be a tiger when they grow up.
So you evaluate them for feral and ones that are more domesticated?
Exactly. So when we trap them, trap, neuter, adopt is not like it's not a separate discipline per se, but in a town with a concentration like you have in some of your apartment complexes, in the industry we refer to them as dumps or abandoned animals. So people often can't take their cats with them for some reason. And while there does tend to be more of a tendency to take dogs with you or find another solution, people don't seem to really feel that badly about leaving their cats behind. There is oddly a sense that the cats will fend for themselves, which typically means they'll go and find wherever a caregiver is feeding cats, but it's not a great solution for an indoor cat to go outside in October, November, December and try and fend for itself. So the idea is the caregivers monitor the colonies. When we start working in one of the larger apartment complexes, a lot of the cats that we trap, we're going to assess as friendly, and then we adopt them out. Again, another advantage. You've got a shelter. We can actually showcase animals there. Smitten by Kittens, my group, we home foster all of them, promote them on, there's a variety of sites like Pet Finder and Adopt a Pet, promote them through our Facebook page. We're the groups you see at PetSmart on the weekends, adopting animals. The shelter's a huge advantage for you in helping to make a dent in this problem for the town.
So you'll help Heidi maintain some of this when they're trapped? You'll assist in that process?
100%. I mean, she's already doing it now on her own, but there's only so much that she can accomplish, or her team, I should say. There's only so much they can accomplish. The idea is with the volunteers, we're here to augment, right? So Heidi's got a job to do. Heidi's got professional scope of effort. What we'll do is be supporting the stuff. We're kind of like eyes, ears, and legs on the ground.
If we know of someone that is already caring for the cats, and we approach them to be a caregiver, where do they register, or who do we call once we have that person and they are willing to still take care of the cats once they are neutered?
So I've had a couple conversations on this. I spoke with the animal control officer in Edison last week. Edison's a model community very similar to Parsippany in many ways. Smaller geography, more dense population, but they similarly had a professional ACO, shelter, and a volunteer effort that led to their very successful TNR efforts. So the answer to your question is we don't typically have the town formally register colonies, and there are some legal reasons for that. But the notion is that if individuals know that Parsippany is cat friendly, and we give them an email address and a phone number, we're not going to have a problem finding out from people. So the short answer is, if you know a person who's got a cat, we're working now. We have to figure out what exactly the right model is. So the township, the shelter has a Facebook page already. There's an email address for the shelter. If Parsippany is going to talk about what they're doing, it's as simple as saying, if you're already caring for cats, send us a note, let us know. We'll help you trap and manage the colony you have. If you've got cats that you're worried about, give us a call or send us a note. We'll come out, assess, and help you manage those cats effectively.
One of these caregivers asked me a question. I didn't have an answer. He says, if I volunteer now and I'm officially a caregiver for this colony, which I've been feeding, but now it's official, my name is on there as a caregiver for these cats, and one of these cats scratches or bites somebody, he says, am I liable now for a lawsuit because I'm the caregiver?
So that is, there are some legal writings on this, and there's some information about it in a document I put in your packet. The Animal Protection League of New Jersey is a coalition of lawyers who have positions on a lot of these things. I'll research that, but here's I'll give you my short answer again. That is probably as good a reason as any for colony caregivers to be registered informally through your charity partner, if you will, as opposed to having some formal registration through the town. Because in theory, if they're registered through the town, I suppose liability could even be conferred to you,
Okay, thank you.
right?
I don't know whether Heidi can answer. Do we have a ordinance where people can't feed cats?
No, they can't feed. They can't feed wildlife. There's no mention of they're not allowed to feed cats. You
Oh, yeah.
can't leave an accumulation of food out. That would be a health code violation.
Right,
an
because it
accumulation
draws-
of food.
yeah.
But it
It
doesn't
draws
say
other
you can't.
animals.
Right, right.
What's that?
It draws other animals.
Correct.
Yeah.
And then you're prepared then to advertise this and make it known that we're, initiating this program where
Yes.
people could volunteer. So
Yep.
you'll handle that?
We
You'll-
can, yeah.
With your
Yeah.
assistance?
Yep.
And it's on our website that will be easily.
Oh, it's on your website,
Well, I mean,
right?
it will have to be put there. Like we can advertise on our Facebook page that
Oh, on your
this is
Facebook page.
that this is what we're doing. I mean, the township website can get updated. I mean, you can go to the
So-
apartment complex, send out mass
Right,
notifications.
so through you, Council President, I think in summation here, the administration, I don't want to speak for the mayor, but is supportive of us pursuing this endeavor with a partnership with some nonprofit groups in the area to try to make the, what's the abbreviation again? TNVM program
Good job.
a success here in Parsippany. That being said, what I think we're looking for is an acknowledgement by the Township Council that they would also be supportive of us pursuing this. What I see is a series of programming meetings that would need to take place for us to outline exactly what this would look like and what this relationship would look like. And then subsequently, there will be a series of ordinances that would need to be drafted out of those meetings and then reviewed by our township attorney that would be brought back to the council to be enacted so that we can begin the program here in the township.
For, just speaking for myself, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
definitely. Yes, definitely.
What's
Thank you,
I've been
Diane.
trying to do this for 15 years.
What took so long?
What took you so long?
Our ACO did not want to do it.
I congratulate you on taking a step in the right direction. I congratulate you on taking a step in this direction. I mean, 2014, 2015, 2016 were dark days for Parsippany. So I congratulate you on going in this direction. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane.
Thank you.
Just to add a note to that, Heidi, do you have any members of your staff here today? Just, can you please recognize? Okay. Okay. I would like everyone, and especially the council, to, I've been monitoring this staff quite closely in the past 14 months. These three professionals are exactly that. They have skills, they know their job, they're good at their job, they do it with passion at the same time, with heart, and with the clinical skill that's required to do something like this. That's very difficult because sometimes it's not just about animal control, there's also a bit of human control that needs to be done as well. And they do it very admirably. So thank you very much, Heidi, you and your staff. Thank you for everything you do for the township.
Thank you, Heidi.
Thank you. Okay, moving on, Township Clerk.
no report at this time? Thank you.
Township offices, committees, reports.
Not at this time.
Okay. Engineering report, Lake Parsippany Road Improvements Phase 6 project. Construction of the 6th phase of the Lake Parsippany Road Improvement Project remains in progress. Water service installation continues when the weather is favorable and the project will be completed in the spring. No council action required. Moraine Area Streets Phase 2 project, the second phase of this project, is substantially complete. Minor cleanup items will continue as long as the weather is favorable. Final restoration will be completed in the spring. No council action required. Mount Tabor Area Streets Phase 3 improvement project. Construction is approximately 40% complete and work is stopped for the winter. Construction will start again in the spring. We continue to monitor site conditions and address concerns as they arise. No council action required. Drainage issues. Engineering and the Public Works departments are still investigating numerous drainage issues. The Cherry Lane issues are still being evaluated, but the wet weather has delayed some of our ability to get equipment on site to investigate more thoroughly. Crews have inspected drainage lines and continue to investigate until the source of the problem is identified. The drainage problems on Old Dover Road have been corrected, and we are investigating several concerns throughout the town. No council action required. Edgewood Court reconstruction project. This project was awarded last month and is anticipated to start in the spring. No council action required. Sandra Drive and Sandra Court reconstruction project. This project is for the reconstruction of Sandra Drive and Sandra Court, including drainage improvements, curbs, and full-depth pavement reconstruction. Bids were opened on February 21st, and a recommendation to award the project to Midwest Construction is requested. A resolution will need to be adopted by the Township Council. Forge Pond Luxury Townhomes, release of performance guarantees, Block 734, Lots 2, 63, 64, and 68. The developer completed all site work in accordance with the approved plans. Inspections were made during this course of construction, and this office has no objection to the release of letter of the credit number 1003-SB for the overall site work and letter of credit number 999-SB associated with the soil moving guarantee. A resolution will need to be adopted by the Township Council. Starbuck Corporation Performance Guarantee Release, Block 726, Lot 9. The developer completed all site work in accordance with the approved plans. Inspections were made during the course of construction, and the office has no objection to the release of performance bond number 023038514. A resolution will need to be adopted by the Township Council. Target Federal Realty Investment Trust Performance Guarantee Release, Block 729, Lot 7. The developer completed all site work in accordance with the approved plans. Inspections were made during the course of construction, and this office has no objection to the release of performance bond number 019052926. A resolution will need to be adopted by the Township Council. Bids taken February 14th. Laboratory Improvement Project, February 21st. Reconstruction of Sandra Drive and Sandra Court. To be taken March 14th. One new 2019 Type 14x4 emergency medical vehicle for EMS. And March 16th, SCADA system improvements, quotations, proposals, qualifications, none. This time I'll entertain a motion to open up the public hearing.
Motion.
Motion made by Mr. DePiero, seconded by Ms. Grignani. Roll call. Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Ms. McCarthy?
Yes.
Ms. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Carriffy?
Yes.
Floor is open on any matter.
If you do come forward, please state your name and address. You'll be given 5 minutes.
Oops, that's okay.
And please sign in. Did you sign? Okay.
I'm going to start out with, my name is Esther Rucci, and I am a resident.
Ms. Rucci, if I can ask you to speak into the mic.
Just
Thank
state
you, ma'am.
your address, please.
Is it on? Is it?
Yes.
It's good? Okay. My name is Esther Rucci. I am a resident of Lake Hiawatha. I live on Chesapeake Avenue, and the reason I came was because of the feral cats. She had a great presentation, but they didn't speak anything about the diseases that cat carries. I've been here for 15 years, and I am also captain of the Neighborhood Watch on my block. I am also a member of the Parsippany Women's Club. The problem with feral cats that I had was a neighbor that had, he was a hoarder, and there was cats all over the place. I had feces in my yard. I had my grandchildren play in my yard without noticing that there was cat feces, stepped on it. My dog once ate cat feces. Now, the hoarder isn't there. Unfortunately, he died, but the cats kind of went away. It just started. We've had cats here for There's about 3 or 4 cats running around the neighborhood on Chesapeake Avenue. And I don't know whether you ever had a cat that urinates around your house. That smell permeates through the whole home, okay? And just today, my father's room, he's 93 years old, the smell of urine was unbearable. The cats are constantly coming in no matter what we do. We spent over $7,000 to put a vinyl fence when the hoarder was there, and cats somehow always get in, okay? Now we're starting with the cats. They never spoke about, that's fine, whether you want to, control the population, but she never spoke about the diseases that cats carry in their stool, okay? When they urinate or when they have feces around the area, you can get many, many diseases. I'm also a nurse for 35 years. I'm partially retired, and there are many, many diseases that are contagious through humans, all right? There's one that they made a study in Sweden that one of the parasites can actually go to your brain. You can get very sick. You can get even salmonella from cat poop, all right? Because if a cat eats a bird or something, it carries salmonella. You can also get that if it's in the stool. I understand that they have the control. The time that the hoarder was there, when I called the city, I would have to pay $75 for each cat that was caged. Now, if they neutered the cat and they bring the cat back to the same neighborhood, that's not going to fix the problem of the cat or the urine in around the home or in my backyard. So I'm just wondering, how can this be taken care of?
Is that your question?
Yes.
Okay. First, I would probably say to speak to Mrs. Mooney in reference to that, and I think she would be able to best advise you. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that she should speak to you about that offline, and you can get any advice from her. I'm sure she'll be able to direct
Help
you
out.
and definitely help you.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Bob Venezia, 102 Brooklawn Drive. And for the past 5 years or so, the township has found it necessary to transfer almost $3 million per year of surplus money from the water and sewer utilities to make ends meet in the general budget. Given this heavy dependence on surpluses from the utilities, it was probably unwise for the previous administration to shortchange general budget revenues by imposing a politically motivated 0% tax increase 2 years ago. On the positive side, the 0% tax increase generated an unused bank cap amount of 2%. By law, bank cap amount money can be used in subsequent budgets to increase taxes above the 2% cap without having to go to referendum. It seems like the new administration has chose to use this bank cap money to recover the revenues that were lost 2 years ago. Given our systemic general budget problems, using reserved bank cap space to increase revenues seems to be a fiscally responsible action to take. On the other hand, the administration's proposed rate increases to the fiscally sound water and sewer utilities are inexplicable and greedy. During the last meeting's presentation, a healthy surplus goal was defined as 10 to 15% of the current fund budget. but both the water and sewer utilities have surpluses in the neighborhood of 50%. Requesting a rate increase for budgets that are already comfortably exceed the target surplus goal cannot be justified unless the real motive is to shift even more money to the general budget to avoid having to make difficult spending cuts. And finally, I have a few budget questions that I would like you to ask and have you respond to. First one is, how much unused bank cap space is available for use in this 2019 budget? Question 2, what is the maximum budget rate increase that can be legally imposed in the 2019 budget without having to go to referendum? And then the third question is, what is the total number of staffing increases in the 2019 budget, and how many of them are in the police department? Thank you.
Just real quick before you, were you here at the very beginning of the meeting? Or were you here when we did some budget cuts?
The 13,
Okay.
yes, I was here.
Okay.
Those are 13 positions you're not filling. I don't know how that figures in, whether we have more or less
Okay. No, I can't answer
than we
that.
did, employees than we did in 2018.
Sure, the business administrator. Okay.
Through you, Council President, Mr. Venezia, let me just say that I would not apply the same rule of thumb to the 10 to 15% budget surplus to the water and sewer utilities that you would apply to the current fund. Okay, the revenue sources are different. They are continuing utilities. So whereas when we have leftover funds that may go unexpended for whatever reason in the current fund, there's a period of time where we need to wait in order for those funds to become available for future use. That is not the case with the utilities. So the same rules don't apply to the utilities that apply to the current fund. With regard to the proposal to increase incrementally water rates and potentially restructure the sewer collection rates, we had a utility surplus analysis conducted earlier this year in preparation of this budget. And our financial advisor has made it very clear that if we continue to utilize the surplus in the water and the sewer utilities to offset the current fund, those funds will be depleted by budget year 2024. And that is with a continuation of reducing it by only $50,000 a year, which is what we reduced it by for this budget that is before the council right now. So the purpose of trying to restructure the rate schedule for both utilities is so we don't exhaust those utilities and their surpluses by 2024. I will tell you that there is no quick fix to eliminate the dependency that the township has become accustomed to in utilizing those surpluses to offset the tax increase. That can't happen overnight. We can't reduce $2.5 or $2.25 million in water or sewer surplus to offset the current fund. We can't stop that overnight. There's going to have to be a gradual reduction of dependency on that. But at the same time, what I said at the budget presentation still stands. We should have healthy surpluses in both utilities so that we can someday be paying cash for major infrastructure projects. You were here just a couple weeks ago when the superintendent of our water utility was here. He talked about the infrastructure challenges he's dealing with, especially with these dramatic fluctuations in temperatures and weather. We have an aged water system in this township. We are going to come upon the need to repaint both the inside and outside of all of the water towers within the township in the next 10 years. And the position that Ann and I would like to be in to do that is not to incur a significant amount of debt service to do those capital projects, but rather reduce the dependency on the sewer and water utility to offset the current fund and use that for capital improvements and be able to pay cash essentially for those improvements, both out of water and out of sewer, which reduces your interest payments for debt service that you take on during the life of the bond. So that's where we stand with the recommendation to adjust both the water and sewer rates moving forward.
During the water department's presentation, they said the cost to paint one tower, inside and out, $1 million. More.
2.5. Not to mention the infrastructure issues that we discussed at the budget hearing with both utilities, that there are going to be some
And
infrastructure.
how often do these things need to be done? I mean, these are not.
Well, I mean, as Keith
But
said, there's
I
an
don't think,
aging-
respectfully, I don't think that's a fair question. I think the real question is, how long has it been done since we've laid new pipe to connect people to the water, both the water and the sewer utility? That's the concern. What's happening is a lot of these pipes are significant in age, and as they continue to have structural issues, we're going to have to go in there and we're going to have to lay new pipe throughout the township. In addition to concerns about pump stations, concerns about water towers, all of that is going to have to be looked at, and we're going to have to put a comprehensive capital plan together in the next year or two, and we're going to have to be able to fund that. And my position, and it's very clear, I said it to the mayor before I took the job, we need to put ourselves in a better position to not be dependent on the utilities to offset the budget, and we should be using that for capital improvements to an aging infrastructure. And do you have the answer to the cap bank
I don't
question?
have the cap bank in front of me, and I'll be happy to give that to you. But quite frankly, we did not dip into the cap bank at all this year because the items that went up are not part of the cap bank. They're excluded from the cap bank. The increases, so there's certain inclusions or exclusions that go again that do not get included in that cap.
And with regard to new positions, there are none. The 13 positions that were vacant in the current fund were cut tonight, and we'll make those changes to the budget. What was not listed in there was vacant positions under the utilities, because again, they're self-sustaining, they're self-funding. There have been a number of hires that have been proposed that I have put on hold in both utilities. The department heads are going to be required to justify the need, but for example, we need a lab tech right now at the sewer utility. We can't function without proper staffing. It's a 24-hour operation down there. We can't function without proper staffing when it comes to lab techs. So at some point in the near future, once we have a recommended candidate for that, we are going to have to hire for that, which is why I wanted to clarify the earlier discussion about a hiring freeze, because some of these are essential positions. But it's not a new position. It's a position that was funded in prior year budget.
I just think my problem is that we're using the surpluses from water and sewer to fund water and sewer projects and also the general budget.
Completely agree.
And I don't see why that, why it would, why it's so difficult to get the general budget down to where it was before we started using these monies. I mean, can't we identify what, going back to 5 years ago when, before these surpluses were used, what did we use the money for so that, maybe it can be eliminated. I mean, if we start, hiring people left and right, maybe we can get the staffing down back to where it was 5 years ago through attrition, not through, I'm not asking you to get rid, axe anybody. Attrition, just like not filling a position.
Yeah, but that takes time. I mean,
It takes
that will
time.
take time. And I guess that is the goal.
And I'll point to a decision that the council made, I don't know if it was late last year or earlier this year, when the police chief proposed to eliminate through the table of organization 2 lieutenant positions. Now, currently, those 2 lieutenant positions are still filled, but upon retirement, when the first 2 lieutenants leave, those positions will not be filled and they will be eliminated in the table of organization. I mean, that's the type of planning that I think Councilmember McCarthy is alluding to, that we have to plan for the future. But again, these things unfortunately don't happen overnight.
Well-
And unless you're talking about layoffs, which let me stress, we are not at this point talking about any types of layoffs, maybe some restructuring recommendations later on in the year, but not layoffs. You're going to have to just plan to do it through attrition, as you suggest.
And I would just like to see you increase your goal of reducing the amount of money that you're taking from the surplus. Instead of reducing it by 50, just be a little more ambitious, maybe 100, 200,000 a year.
There's nothing
Bob,
structurally
just-
more
Bob,
important
just
than
want to
that.
lay the time's up, so.
Okay.
what's the answer?
All right. That's fair.
All right.
Nicholas Homiak, Blake, Hiawatha. The last council meeting, it was brought out in public that a referendum in November concerning our local open space funding, under the pretext that there's no land worth saving or acquiring in Parsippany. I believe they were almost your exact words. That the
Not quite, but okay.
no land worth saving in Parsippany. It was something to that effect. But it was when what I went, that may be true. It may be true, but do we really know? And how can we know if we don't have an environmental resource inventory, or if we don't, it's not confirmed? For example, open space or environmental committee. We could use the Highlands, maybe could even help us with this. But one part of our master plan forever has been Troy Meadows. But Troy Meadows is not, it's not just the postage stamp on the envelope, it's the whole envelope. And we've neglected that part of our master plan for long periods of time. So one of my things was, if we had a local open space fund, we could aid the wildlife preserves, because they do cleanup projects, they try to eliminate exotic invaders and plants. They have a lot of things going on down there, and maybe our funding could help them, or even maybe fund other land acquisitions in the county or even the state, because we're, land is a resource for everyone. The other thing that upset me was when the whole thing with affordable housing. They're kicking down the door. We didn't prepare for this, but when I hear the courts don't care, they have to care, because there has to be a science and a logic behind where people live, where people work, how they're going to get there, where they're going to shop. If you just start the whole housing project thing again, and then there's no jobs, the economy is destroying itself, it's going to be unsustainable anyway. So the courts have to care. And about the cats, I believe there are states in the union that require cats to be licensed for some of the reasons that this woman here mentioned from Chesapeake, and including rabies. So I don't understand why the state of New Jersey doesn't consider having a license program. We could even run it locally, but licensing cats. And the other thing is, if you don't declaw them, next to loss of habitat, they're the biggest killers of the songbirds. So if you cut their thing off, and then they're running around, they still got the claws. And how about people who let their cats roam? The well-groomed cats. There's two that come around my neighborhood, and they're always trying to ambush birds. And you could tell they're well-fed, well-groomed. So there should be some kind of an ordinance for people not to let their cats roam. And also, if there's neutering thing, unless they can get the colony down to zero or almost zero population, stop feeding the cats. Stop feeding them.
1 minute, Nick.
All right, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Through you, Council President, Mr. Homiak, what I stated with regard to the potential for a referendum in November which would concern reallocating what the dedicated purpose of allotment of open space fund might be. What I said was, in every municipality in the state of New Jersey, there is a reduced amount of open space for towns or counties to go out and acquire. That's just a statistical fact. That being said, we are now back in the Highlands Council. So there are some protections that are afforded through that membership that didn't exist prior to council resolution from just a short time ago. So what we are looking at now, and we're going to be working with the township attorney on this, is whether or not it's wise to craft this referendum to allow for the apportionment that is dedicated for acquisition, to reduce that by a certain percentage so that we can utilize that for park development, for recreational purposes, and move it from acquisition over to those other functions. Now, that doesn't mean that we will eliminate, or we would recommend to the council that they eliminate acquisition entirely. We would just reduce the apportionment dedicated to acquisition. With regard to the courts, I wish the courts cared. I think I've said this before, the problem, and I think most of the folks up here with me agree on this, the problem with the Council on Affordable Housing is that the legislature has failed to act. Folks who get up at local council meetings and talk about this issue should really be talking to their legislators about the fact that they and multiple governors just haven't acted on this from a governmental standpoint, and it got kicked to the courts, and the judiciary has ruled on how this affects with really no input from local municipalities or their constituents, because judges don't have constituents. So in the same way that elected officials do. So that's the difficulty with affordable housing, and how they really don't pay mind to the impact on schools, to the impact on infrastructure, to the impact on traffic. It's just about meeting numbers.
You know, if I'm not mistaken, I don't think you can declaw cats anymore, can you?
We were just having that conversation. It was a bill for the state legislature to ban declawing in New Jersey.
Yeah.
Several states have outlawed it. It's outlawed in the European Union. It's considered an abomination.
James Griffey, Parsippany. I'm here as a former Board of Education member. I was on a Board of Education for quite some time. And watching the videos from last week about 1515. And please, I may be off on some of the information, so please correct me if I'm mistaken. And I apologize in advance if I am. But you had said that you relied on the Rutgers study of 43 children. But even with the Board of Education members that were here, I haven't heard one piece of information on how many of them would be special needs and or require one-on-one paraprofessionals or an aide or an IEP plan. Because as you know, and I actually, Ms. Tisi is one of my favorite teachers at Littleton School. She's here, so we didn't plan this, but I know that the cost of that is significantly more than your average student. And I hope that you take that into consideration when you sit down with the Board of Ed and negotiate how much money that will be allotted to the Board of Ed for that. Is that accurate, that the study doesn't say what the special needs? And I haven't heard anybody talk about that. Is that accurate?
He'll answer your questions at the end.
Okay.
If you have any.
Then the next thing I want to talk about, I don't know if it's still on the table, about the $78,000 for the garbage for the Board of Ed. And I know I heard Mrs. Schaffo and Mr. Valori come up here on a tape and talk about the July 4th fireworks. But that's an ancillary issue, which is a small amount. What I think, and I hope you are aware of, Mr. Kaczmarek, is that the Board of Ed owns a lot of property. And I think they still do, and Mr. DePiero, I know you were on the Board of Ed at one time, so you could probably correct me if I'm mistaken on this, is that they lease 24 or 25 acres of Volunteers Park to the township, and for $1 a year. So I can't imagine what that cost would be if they were to try to say tit for tat and say, now you got to pay. But more importantly, I think, and I still think this is still true, is that the Board of Education owns Car 69, which is Rescue and Recovery Building. And they only lease that as $1 a year too. I would like you to, if that's still correct, if you could let me know about that when I'm done.
Sure.
And then finally, the last thing, when I was watching the tape, you had said, originally you had the budget at 10%, and you with Ann Cucci, you sharpened your pencils and you got down to 4.72, and you talked about that it was because of the contracts, and you're obligated under certain provisions to provide for that. And I get that. I understand completely. But my question to you is, who negotiated those contracts? Was that under the previous administration or this administration? Because and I think, and I understand the police is part of the bigger part of the budget. You said about longevity and educational expenses. And I just want to know, was that negotiated under the previous administration or under yours? And then you come here and then you say, listen, we have to do it. We have to pay them because they're obligated by the contract. But who negotiated that contract? Previous administration or you? Not you specifically, but under this administration. Say last attorney that was here, at least he wore a mask when he robbed the taxpayers. This, you're saying that you're holding a gun to somebody's head and saying, look, we have to do it. You negotiated the contract, and now saying we have to do it. And you're not even wearing a mask. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Karifi, on the Stanberry issue, you're 100% correct. There's no way to predict special ed students and who would be moving into those units. You can only go by the study and what the predicted amount would be based on demographics and other factors. We have a meeting set up within the next 10 days with the Board of Education. The mayor set this meeting up in order to put together an agreement with them. How we formalize that will be led by our township attorney, so that we would give some of the pilot money collected to offset the cost of any students that are generated from that development. So that is the game plan with Stanberry. But you're right, there's unforeseen pieces to that, including whether or not any of those students are special needs.
Right, I just asked you to take that into consideration when you
Sure.
Yeah,
The other item, I did negotiate the lease for Volunteers Park for $1 a year with the school board. But keep in mind also, we own the school board building. That was the old library. And the township leases that building to the school board for $1 a year. So there's a trade-off.
Right.
Wait.
Right. And I was going to just to piggyback off Councilman DiPiero's comments, because he's 100% correct. I had our tax assessor do a little homework for me on the rental of the building for the Board of Education offices. If we were to rent that out, hypothetically, and I fully understand this as a hypothetical, full disclosure here, but if we were to rent that building out at a reduced market rate of $10 a square foot, we are losing rent to in somewhere in the neighborhood of about $260,000 a year. I get it, it's a hypothetical, but when you look at the trade-offs between the township and the Board of Education, they're significant. The park is a piece, the building is a piece. I can't speak to the other rental that he mentioned.
On the other hand, if the school board took back Volunteers Park and sold it to a developer, it's 28 acres actually, minus the 3/4 of an acre occupied by the R&R and Rockaway ambulance squad, they could build about 240 homes there, which produce a lot more school children. So keeping that a park is to our advantage, and them renting the building from us is to their advantage. I tried a few years ago to swap. Instead of keep paying each other $1 a year, why don't they give us Volunteers Park where we can keep it a park forever with no threat of ever having it developed, and give them the building as a trade, 1 for 1. And then the insurance gets less complicated, and trying to maintain and occupy a building that you don't own is more difficult than if you really did own it.
And with regard to the solid waste pickup, the Board of Education would take on considerably higher costs if they were to have to hire a private hauler to come and remove trash from all of their school buildings and facilities. We're not looking to pass along any labor costs. We didn't ask Mr. Schneider to break that down and then in turn pass that along to the Board of Education. This is strictly the cost of disposal of what's collected from those various Board of Education facilities.
By the way, for the record, I object to that, because we do use school board facilities for other things like the fireworks, and some of our organizations do use the school buildings for different things. I think that's nitpicking. I really wish you would withdraw that and let us go on trading benefits with the school board. What benefits them we do, what benefits us they do.
There's plenty that we do that we don't even
I
that
know
we don't
we-
even
I-
bill
I kn-
for.
I know we do. I
Well,
know we do.
last year when there was a, let's say, a problem in one of our middle schools, at no cost to the Board of Education, we added a full-time police officer. One of the schools, we moved some people around, and we were able to add a police officer at no cost at all to the Board of Education until we could come up with a financial long-term solution at the end of the school year last year. We never asked for a dollar for that. There was a need. Okay, as we said already, there's also other odd services, like we even use our furriest town hall employee to chase the geese away from the parks at the school to keep the geese poop off of the. We're talking about poop a lot in tonight's meeting for some reason, but to chase away the geese, and at no cost at all. There are lots of shared services that go on behalf of the township as well. We're just asking for a
agree.
little help with this.
And then the last piece, to answer the third part of Mr. Karifi's inquiry, is with regard to the PBA contract. I came in at the very tail end of that contract. It was right before the council ratified it. I can tell you that the two main parts, as it was explained to me by my predecessor, were the percentage increases, which this year falls at 2%. Next year, if my memory serves me correct, it's 1.5 for half the year and 3.25 for the second half of the year. Then the following year, it goes up to 1.75 and then 3.5, give or take, for the second half of the year. The give back had to do with tech credits and education credits. Everything prior to that, however,
But you can't get back.
That's fine, I want to sit here and listen to it.
everything prior to those major negotiated pieces, which again was negotiated by my predecessor under this administration and ratified by this council.
That was my question.
Everything prior to that had been negotiated by prior administrations. You're a former police officer, you understand the fact that these things don't expire at the end of a contract. What's negotiated prior continues, and then whatever's negotiated new appears in the new version of the
This administration
collective bargaining
negotiated
agreement.
This contract, and that's part of the reason why you said you have to raise taxes. That's all I'm saying.
The police salaries is a part of why we're raising
It was
taxes. That is
negotiated
correct.
under this administration.
Okay, you gotta sit down.
That's correct.
Started in November.
All right, see no one else come forward, entertain a motion to close the.
Motion.
Whoop.
No. Go ahead, Mr. Densmore. You can come on up.
Did you bring those letters?
Oh, he received his letter.
He did? Okay.
Eric Densmore, 95 Mara Road. I just wanted the council, primarily the officials in town hall, to realize there's an awful lot of fraud out there. And on 3 different occasions now over the last month, I've received phone calls. I know they're not township officials, but people claiming to be township officials telling me that I'm behind on my water bill and that if I don't come up with, it's a large sum of money, like $500, $600, whatever, that my water is going to be shut off. Now, there are several problems with this. One, I'm quite certain your officials do not make collection phone calls like that. Number 2, I'm a renter in Knoll Gardens, and the landlord pays the water anyway. So, my concern is, though, I know this, and I try to actually play along to see if I can get them to give me an address where I could then tell the authorities. My concern is that all it takes is for one person to fall for this. And they're telling me that I need to go out, call a specific number back, and give them a prepaid Visa card over the phone. And, you know, they may call 10 people, and if they get one person to do it, they've done what they need to do. And I think the town needs to be aware that these phone calls are out there.
First off, you shouldn't wait for a council meeting to bring this up. You should have let us know right away when this happened. Did you get the phone number, the caller ID? Did they get the phone numbers?
Yeah, and when you call the phone number back, it goes to a dead number.
Okay, yeah, they're playing that game.
Like, I got a phone call today, actually.
On your mobile?
On my
Okay.
mobile, yeah.
Okay. Would you please come to the police department, fill out a formal complaint?
Okay.
Okay?
The
That would
number
be
they
helpful.
told you to call with when you get the charge card or whatever you're supposed to use, do you have that number?
It's like, it was like an 877 number. I have it at home when I wrote it down on my notes. I don't have it here.
Just so you know, these types of scams have been going on for quite some time. There's also other scams where they're trying to get money from people. A lot of them are even coming from other countries.
Sure,
They're
yeah.
accessing phone numbers from here. So obviously, you know it's not true, but like the mayor said, I would go down to the police department, file a complaint so they can try to follow up on these.
Yeah. So, I just wanted you guys to be aware of it, that's all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
so much.
Thank you.
Okay, see no one else come forward, entertain a motion to close the public hearing?
Motion.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. DePiero, seconded by Ms. Peterson. Roll call. Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Ms. McCarthy?
Yes.
Ms. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Carriffy?
Yes.
Floor is closed.
Okay, status of adopted ordinances. Ordinance 2019-01, adopted October 30th, 2018. Mayoral action November 1st, 2018. Effective date November 21st, 2018.
Council President, I'm sorry, there's a typo there. It's, we meant to say 2019, so I do apologize for that. So it's,
I think all of those dates are incorrect.
yes,
So we
correct.
need to
I don't know what's,
revise those.
yeah, oh, it's only
Well,
because
like-
it was introduced and, because it was just
It
I'll fix
can't,
it.
can't be adopted October 30th.
It was introduced in January, correct? And then it was
Adopted
adopted.
should be 18.
Yes,
Yes.
I will fix those
Should
dates
be
for the
18.
record at the
Okay,
next
yeah,
meeting.
All right, great. Thank you. Okay, Mr. DePiero?
May I for a moment, Mr. Council President, listening to everyone here tonight and to you and to the other council members, I will consider and entertain the withdrawal of asking the Board of Education to pay for the tipping fees for the sanitation. If it's done by vote here by the council, just understand that would then raise the taxes to approximately 3% from the 2.7, I think you had, right?
2.67, I think.
Yeah.
That's the anticipated revenue, so you'd be going, if that was removed from the budget as an anticipated revenue, it would then increase the percentage increase by whatever the calculation is.
So instead of it being 2.68, it's going to be plus 3%?
It would be 2.67. will go
We
up to
can
about-
have Ann run the number for you real quick. She just has to enter into the spreadsheet. If, Council President, if you want to move on to introduction of
Mr.
ordinance while
DePiero,
she
if
does
you
the
Sure.
calculation.
Ordinance for introduction, ordinance 2019:06, an ordinance of the Township Council of the Township of Parsippany Troy Hills, Morris County, New Jersey, amending and supplementing various provisions of the Code of Parsippany Troy Hills related to fees. Be it resolved that the above ordinance be introduced, read by title, and passed on first reading at a meeting of the Township Council of the Township of Parsippany Troy Hills held on March 5th, 2019, and that said ordinance be further considered for second reading and final passage at a meeting to be held on March 19th, 2019, another error, at 7 p.m. prevailing time, or as soon thereafter as the matter may be reached at the municipal building in said township, at which time all persons interested shall be given an opportunity to be heard concerning said ordinance. Be it further resolved that the clerk be authorized and directed to advertise said ordinance with the notice of introduction thereof being published in the official newspaper according to law. Motion to approve the above resolution.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. DePiero, seconded by Ms. Peterson. Roll call. Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
I'm looking at the fee adjustment. Yes.
Ms. McCarthy?
Yes.
Ms. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Carriffy?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, non-consent agenda?
R 2019-070, appropriation transfer. Motion to approve the resolution.
Motion.
Second.
Oh, sorry. Okay, so motion made by Ms. McCarthy, seconded by Ms. Peterson. Roll call, Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Ms. McCarthy?
Yes.
Ms. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Carriffy?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, consent agenda, any questions, concerns? Okay, Ms. McCarthy?
C, approval of payroll and bills list. CFO Ann Cucci recommends authorization for payment. Authorization of payment, 3/4/19, regular miscellaneous payroll estimated at $1,600,000. Payment of bills and vouchers, 2018 through 2008 through February 28, 2019, $1,458,446.87. Motion to approve the authorization for payment.
Second.
Motion made by Ms. McCarthy, seconded by Ms. Peterson. Roll call, Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Ms. McCarthy?
Yes.
Ms. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Carriffy?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Through you, Council President, that would bring it up to about 2.95, so the
Okay, I
Mayor
just
was
have a
about
quick question. I was doing some math in my head. When we reduced the budget by the $40,000, it went from 2.78 down to 2.67, so it dropped 0.11. Okay? Even if we were to double that, we're adding $74,000 back in? Okay? So even if we were to double the 40, which would make it 80, you would think it would go up 0.22, right? It went down 0.11. Why is it going to go up
But hold on,
so much?
did you redo that? Did you do the other cuts in there as well, Ann?
I did.
So when you take the totality of what was modified tonight, where does that take it?
2.86, I guess.
2.86?
Yeah.
So where's it now? 2.86? So it's going up to 2.86?
It's just not the 75, it's the,
It's more than this.
it's the,
Mayor, in your.
the
your
860, it's the
estimation-
862, the 40, and then adding back in the 74. Yeah, so.
Mayor,
Yes. Ran that already.
we do a lot for the school board and they do a lot for us. I don't know if it's a break even or not. Do you have any feeling for, is it an equal or fairly even give and take, do you think? Do we want to?
I don't know if we've done an assessment with that. We were in a bind, and the fees were going up on tipping, and we needed help. I didn't think it was such a hard thing
Do
to
we-
ask for help, considering that when they need help, we jump in there without even thinking about it.
Let me ask Ann a different question then. The transfer station,
Yes.
we get a host fee still, right?
Yes, we do.
And we get a reduction in the tipping fee from other towns.
Okay. But our fees have gone very, very high this year.
Well, my question is, are we still getting the host fee and the reduced tipping fee?
Well, the host fee we get.
Well, we also had a 5% reduction in tipping fee because we're the host community.
Yeah, but
That
the
was an
tip,
agreement we made when we allowed them to put the transfer station.
I
in
realize that,
Parsippany.
but we went out and we had to go out to bid. It's really to haul everything. It has to do with recycling and everything that we had to go back out to bid and the prices are going astronomically up. So we spoke to the Board of Ed, if I'm not mistaken, Keith, and they understood the fact that our costs are going so far up.
I would suggest, Mayor, that someone look into the original agreement with the transfer station. We not only had a host fee, but we also had a reduction in our tipping fee. And that had no time limit. We had that when we agreed to put the transfer station in Parsippany. We had two requirements. They provide access to 280, so the trucks didn't have to use
Right.
Parsippany roads, and that we have a host fee and a reduction in tipping fee forever, as long as the transfer station is there. So I would ask you to look into it and see if we're still getting both of those.
We can do that.
Go ahead,
John.
I'm sorry.
Before we adjourn, I was in Mr. Kazmark's office this afternoon, and Cucci was there, and I mentioned the hotel tax that was reduced by it wasn't, the amount was 2.94 last year that we received in the hotel
No, it was
tax.
2.5, and then it was 2.597, Ms. Grignani, just to
Yes.
correct you.
Okay. Is there any way of, I mean, we're
Well-
adding money in, can we add more money in now?
Now, here's the question.
Okay.
If it comes in short, what are you going to do? You're getting to such a close, everybody's going so close to what we anticipated last year. This is an average, 2.5 million. To go to 2.597, if you come up short, where's that money coming from?
I'm just.
No, I'm just
asking
saying,
if it was
and this is the thing, I'm more actually just putting it out there for everyone, that the closer you get to what you anticipated the prior year, the less that drops to the bottom line to replenish fund balance, and you risk having deficit expenditure.
Okay.
So I like to go with the average, which was 2.5 million. We happen to get lucky to get a
Last
little bit
year.
more this year, but in the past, it's about 2.5.
Okay, thank you.
So through you, Council President, there was an analysis done by my office after this discussion came up at the presentation of the budget back in February of the hard costs and the soft costs of the township and what we give back to the Board of Education. So if you extract the costs that we take on for security and the school resource officers, which amounts to about $373,000. You take that out, you run down sanitation pickup, miscellaneous asphalt and salt supplemented from our DPW to the Board of Education, salary, sanitation, and recycling pickup, labor costs, which we did break out but did not pass on to the school in our proposal, the use of the Border Collie by Parks and Forestry, landscaping materials such as mulch, which is about $30,000, and the tennis court maintenance. Our hard costs, absent the salaries of security and SROs, is about $137,000 that we contribute to the Board of Education in hard dollars. And then, of course, we have the lease that we have for their Board of Education building to the township for $1, and the use of recreation facilities.
The tennis court maintenance that we do, we have an agreement with the school board that if the schools are not using the tennis courts, the community can.
Correct. So there's a partnership there.
So we're maintaining that not just for the school board, but also for the community.
Correct. So Ann, do you have the final percentage
I'm sorry.
with all the adjustments?
Yeah, 2.85% if we take out the 74. Just straight 74, nothing else.
And that's with the cuts that were voted on earlier.
Correct.
And
It's-
then the modification of not anticipating the 74,000 in revenue.
Correct.
All right, we're still under 3. I will go along with that.
Okay, so nobody else has any other cuts? Good.
So do we need to take a vote on that?
Yeah, motion has to be made for that.
To put that back into the budget?
You're eliminating the anticipated revenue of $74,000 from the Board of Education for purposes of trash disposal.
No, I thought that was already was that already taken out?
No,
No.
no, you would have to vote on that
We
to
have to,
make that
we have to
adjustment
vote on
now.
it.
Okay.
And if we do vote on that, then our reduction comes down to 2.8
85.
something?
From 2.67 to 2.85.
2.85 will be the actual increase in the municipal budget. I'll make the motion.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. DePiero, seconded by Ms. Grignani. Roll call, Mr. DePiero,
Yes.
Ms. Grignani,
Yes.
Ms. McCarthy,
Yes.
Ms. Peterson,
Yes.
Mr. Carriffy.
Before I vote, I just want to say, we have reduced the budget almost 2%. It's tough. We don't want to raise taxes that much. I understand, we need to, and I don't want to reduce any services, which I don't think we have. We've continued our support of the Board of Education, so I vote yes.
Motion passes.
Sorry.
Executive session resolution. Whereas the Open Public Meetings Act, PL 1975, Chapter 231, permits the exclusion of the public from a meeting in certain circumstances, and whereas the Township Council is of the opinion that such circumstances presently exist, and whereas the Township Council wishes to discuss litigation, affordable housing, and potential litigation, and whereas minutes will be kept, and once the matter involving the confidentiality of the above no longer requires confidentiality, the minutes can be made public. Now therefore be it resolved by the Township Council of the Township of Parsippany Troy Hills that the public be excluded from this meeting. Motion to adjourn into closed session.
Second.
Motion made by Ms. Peterson, seconded by Mr. DePiero. Roll call, Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Ms. McCarthy?
Yes.
Ms. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Carriffy?
Yes.
Okay, we're now going to adjourn to closed session. We do not anticipate any action being taken for the public. Thank you.
5 minutes.
Motion to reconvene.
Second.
Okay, motion to reconvene into into open session made by Ms. Peterson, seconded by Ms. Grignani. Roll call, Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Ms. McCarthy?
Yes.
Ms. Peterson?
Yes.
We're back in open session. Need a motion for adjournment?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion made by Ms. Peterson, seconded by Ms. Grignani. Roll call, Mr. DePiero?
No, I want to stay.
Yeah. Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Ms. McCarthy?
Yes.
Ms. Peterson?
Yes.
Please bang the gavel. Have a good night.
Good night, everybody.
Okay.